Well, I'll begin with you, DG. You've seen the Trump tariffs and you know how other countries are reacting to this. But for Nigeria, do you think the country is strong enough to withstand, you know, the ripple effects of this Trump tariffs? And what industries or sectors do you think will feel the biggest impacts?
Well, it's a global punishment in some sense, but of course, again, it's also a very strong expression of self-interest for the United States, and a call to other countries to do the same. Nigeria has many ways it can respond, and it can also respond very successfully because the effects on the main is likely on oil, which is also not. It's likely on oil because America doesn't import much of our other non-oil products. So there are less than 10% of what we export to the United States. The indirect impact would be through China, you know, because again, the tariff, the imposition on China is about 145%, which might weaken China's ability to trade with us and to trade with other countries. Most of our export and import trade, in fact, for the whole of Africa, is shifting towards China. Now, can we respond? Yes, of course, we can respond. And I guess that's why my distinguished senator and myself is here. The bill on exporting raw materials without value addition, you know, with a minimum of 30% value addition, can be a very strong response to this. Because it's almost like saying, we protect our own economy, that's America saying this. And then for us, Nigeria, and indeed the rest of Africa, saying, we also have to do something in our own best interest.
Okay. Distinguished, let me come to you with this. He just talked about the bill you're proposing.
Yes.
Now, is it that before this bill, I mean, the amendments you're seeking, what was the state of things when talking about doing business in Africa and other global entities? Is it that we don't have enough legislations in place that can help us in playing an active role in the global trade?
Well, it's not correct to say that we don't have enough laws regulating our international businesses as a nation. We have, but you know, from time to time, you review your laws vis-a-vis your interests in the cost of transaction. One thing is very clear. In Nigeria, we make good laws. Another thing is obeying those laws. Also, we are blessed. In Africa, Nigeria has the largest deposit of raw materials in Africa. No doubt about that. But the problem is, how do we tailor our laws for us to have full utilization of these raw materials? Now, for example, in Nigeria, we have gold, we have lead, name them. But most unfortunately, all these raw materials are exported at this crudest form outside Nigeria, without any form of processing it here. Imagine if we have a gold processing factory in a place like Zamfara, where we have large deposit of gold. Could you imagine the number of youth, Nigerian youth that will be employed there? The revenue to government, our economy will be diversified. Could you imagine having a lead processing industry in a Ebonyi state? Imagine what type of development it will bring to the locality, the value to add to our economy as a nation. But regrettably, like I said earlier, all these things are not happening because our laws are weak in this respect. And that is why I've come up with this bill to amend the Raw Material Act of 2022 to make it mandatory that all these raw materials cannot just be exported at this crudest form outside Nigeria. We must insist that we develop our own industries here to process these raw materials. By doing so, we create jobs for our teeming unemployed youths. By doing so, we generate more revenue to government. By doing so, we diversify our economy. So that is what we are talking about. And that is what the bill is seeking to cure.
Well, Senator, your bill suggests that at least 30% of raw materials should be processed before exports. But many would say the real challenge is capacity. Do we have the factory, the equipment, and skilled labor to support this? And what specific steps are being taken to boost capacity on ground?
Well, a journey of 100 miles will start with a step. We are aware of all these things. When we debated this bill, some senators raised this issue that you just raised now. But like I said, a journey of 100 miles will start with a step. Let's put the law in place. Government has a role to play by putting some of these facilities in place. Do you understand? And also by creating credit, for some of the companies to actually take off. And we're also going to have some time lag within which the law will come into effect so that all these facilities, will be in place. And I'm very sure, because in the course of my interaction last time with the DG and, of course, the Minister of Science and Technology, they are very much ready to cooperate in this respect because it's going to bring a complete turnaround, to our economy as a nation. Okay,
DG, let me come to you with this. 30% definitely is a huge leap. And the Senator has just talked about...
Lots to start with.
Yeah, I understand. He's just talking about there will be a time lag. I remember also, I think during the Obasanjo, Jonathan regime, we had this, was it 5% cassava initiative and all that. We didn't even achieve it, just 5%. Now, we're talking about growing to 30. What I'm saying is the willpower of government or government agencies. How much will this bill ensure sanctions for those who flout? Because before you now know, there will be waivers. And once you start having waivers come in, you're going to abuse it. So would all these things be considered in this bill so that we don't have the political players destroy everything?
Well, of course, they're all in consideration. In drafting bill, the senator will talk more about the bill drafter because they draft the bill. But they are all inclusive. You can't enforce this bill without also without minimizing the loopholes for the abuse of its implementation. Yes, waivers are most likely going to be very minimal because it is very clear you have to add value to these raw materials up to 30%. Now, they will vary from raw material to raw material depending on end market expectations. There are some markets out there that will require that the only way they can buy this is if they're in particular form. So you consider at least 30% of the value expectation and add to it before sending that out. It is, I don't know how to explain it, that since independence, we have our cassava and we export it that way. We have our mangoes and we just ship it out that way. So from extraction to export, there's no stop. You have very little stop. It should be extraction, some measure of value addition, some significant measure of value addition, and to export. Kenya has at least 53% value addition to its raw materials. South Africa, I think significantly higher, about 65 or so. Wow. Then you don't talk about countries outside of Africa. You can't develop, you can't prosper, you cannot be like any country that you call developed without intentionally adding value to the raw materials, the resources that God has given to you. It's not possible. So yes, of course, we are going to do everything possible because the implementation also is considerably going to be with the council. And we are going to do everything to ensure that, yes, those likely frontiers of abuses are minimized.
All right, DG, now that we've started seeing some progress with recent policy reforms, especially with the Fitch rating scoring Nigeria a B from a B-, what new targets should the government be aiming for at this time?
Well, I think one has to praise the government, particularly the president, for the reforms, the environment, for all that's going on. It will be tough, slightly, but I think a lot of progress, and one can see the direction very clearly. from my own small point of view, from my own small perspective, I think the boldest move that this government can make is to get this bill assented to. That's what is going to alter the conditions of unemployment, income, anything, all those parameters for prosperity. That's what's going to change it. So regardless of what we're doing in all other frontiers, this bill is the most important, the single most important lever to alter the condition, for the condition of a typical Nigerian.